Hello, and welcome, my friends, to the next video in the Create Better Content series, where I show you how to tap into your creativity so that you can stay consistent with your marketing and reach more customers. My name is Penny, and I feel like I haven't been here in a couple of weeks, and I probably haven't. I know I took off for Thanksgiving, and then last week we had our end of the year planning workshop in the Marketing Strategy Collective. So it feels good to be back here. Because what I want to do here is I want to actually, I'm just going to jump right into it today. Um, I know I do all my little intro stuff, and I'll do that at the end of it, I believe, because I'm feeling like I really want to talk through some stuff with you today. I want to talk through this idea of, you know, the end of the year review. It's not just a workshop that I put together for the people in the Marketing Strategy Collective. And that's what we're going to do in today's episode. It's going to be like an exhale kind of moment. Like, yes, I made it through another year kind of moment. Because every time at this year, in the month of December, and I say the month of December because it's not just a couple of days or a couple of weeks, I actually break this up throughout the month because I want to give myself time to think about the year and to think about what happened and where I was. It's like a reflection type of thing. And I got to be honest with you, this time of the year in December is one of my favorite parts of my business. I have been in business for 25 plus years, and I do this every single year. And every single year it might shift, it might change a little bit, but the basics of it is still the same. So what I want to do with today's video with today, can I say the word today one more time? What I want to do with the video is walk you through my year-end review. And I want to see, what I want to do is I want to give you like some sort of structure, maybe give you some ideas, give you some prompts, give you some things to think about. And if you yourself for your business do not have a year-end review type of process, take a listen to mine and see what you can pull from it. And maybe you can help you with some clarity and some confidence and give you a creative spark of energy moving into next year. So let's go through this here. I mean, why do I even do this at all? Why don't I just show up next year and go, okay, here's the topics I'm going to talk about. Here's the stuff I'm going to launch. These are the dates I'm going to put it in. All right, I'm good. Why do I not just do that and hope for the best? Because here's the thing that business owners, marketing managers, influencers, all those great big words, when they talk about your marketing strategy, they talk about the plans, but we don't really get into the fact that your business needs closure on your business just as much as you do. I know we're small businesses, and I know the big corporations at the end of the year, they close out their books, they close out their proposals, they close out their sales, they close out everything. So when they move into the next year, whether it's the fiscal year or the January 1st year, they still start out the year understanding everything that happened from the year before and how they're going to use that information to move into the new year, and they're going to implement their plans. That doesn't mean we have to do a big, massive, detailed Excel spreadsheet, 100-page document, but we do need to look at our businesses. We do need to spend time in December, especially as small business owners, especially as solopreneurs, and we are the ones that are doing most of the work. We need that time to pause and look back. Because if we don't do that, if we don't spend this time to review and go through this process that I'm going to explain to you, we end up repeating the same mistakes. We end up carrying that same overwhelmed feeling with us into January. We don't get to see the patterns of the things that maybe made this year easier that we could take and build upon and scale going into next year. And also, when we don't do a review like this, we don't take the time to look at what we actually accomplished We spend so much time in the nitty gritty and the day to day and moving through things and trying to get through things and trying to survive that I believe that there's sometimes that we don't really spend any moment celebrating our wins, no matter how big they are. So, doing this kind of year end review process, it becomes grounding. It slows you down enough so that you can see the truth of what's going on with your business. It's not about judgment and judging the numbers and judging the people who clicked on it or didn't click on it or viewed it or didn't view it. What this does is it gives you perspective. It gives you the peace and understanding so that you understand how to move forward with your plan. Because you don't want to start the new year in reactive mode. What you want to do is go into the new year feeling intentional and purpose and how these things are going to help you with your business. So let's get into this. Let's go through these steps that I do for my business review. And again, I'm not asking you to duplicate everything exactly. You can pull from my description what works for you and build upon it to make it work even better for you, or at least use it as a guideline. Maybe if that's it at all. Okay, so let's start with this idea. The first thing we're going to do is we talk about reflection. And reflection isn't just about how many listing all the great things I did this year. It's deeper than that. I want you to ask yourself things like this. What did this year teach me? What happened in the business, about my energy, my capacity, my boundaries, my ability to be creative enough to move through things, my resilience to keep moving forward. What lessons did I learn? What happened this year that had affected my business, and how did I react to it? Think about it from that place. Think about that as lessons, business lessons. And business lessons are here to are disguises because they can also be opportunities for us. Another question you want to ask yourself is, what surprised me? Usually, when you're not sure of something, this reveals something unexpected, like a win that you forgot, or the moments when you handled something way better than an old you could have. So think about that too. What surprised you? What changed? And how did you deal with it? How did you get through it? How did you help your business to keep moving forward? And another question that you're going to ask when you do your reflection is, what went well? And is it something that I would repeat again? This is the gold. This is the piece of this reflection part that feels natural to you, that was effective, that's aligned with your business goals, and that could clearly be the foundation of next year's strategies. So when we're doing this kind of reflection, it's not about looking at the number of impressions that you got or how many followers signed on to your Facebook page. It's about understanding how you, as the business owner, is working with your business. It's about understanding how the things that happened this year in your business, how it affected your business, and understanding that in a sense that how you can take the lessons from it, how you can see what went well with it, and you can use this information moving into the new year. So the next thing we do with this type of end of the year process, or I do, is gratitude. So we've looked at our wins, but what about the things that we're thankful for? Because like I said, this review is deeper. This review isn't just about a bunch of numbers. And when we think about the gratitude part of this is really powerful. Because what the gratitude does is it kind of just softens. It softens the edges of a hard year, and it amplifies the good stuff. So when we think about our gratitude, we think about it like we're grateful for the people in our lives. And I don't just mean your family and your friends. You're grateful for your clients. You're grateful for the people that you collaborate with, your customers, the people who support you, who show up every time that you do a workshop, the people who are in your community who hit the reply button on the email whenever you ask a question, the people who are maybe they're in a group program with you. That's what I mean. Your gratitude for the people. So make an opportunity to think about how you're grateful for those people, and then make sure you say something about it. I know that I did. I had the end of the year meeting with the Marketing Strategy Collective, and I wanted to make sure that I let everybody know how important their presence was, and that I appreciated them being there as members, and what we were going to do next year and how the program was going to grow, and that I was just grateful for them being there. So think about it from that place. You could also be grateful for your progress. Even if the year felt like really messy, you moved forward. I want you to acknowledge that. And I always say to myself, and I feel so bad every week. Sometimes it feels like, oh, what did I get done? What did I get done? And when I can look back on the things that I did, maybe that was like an inch of work, maybe it was 2 inches of work. But at the end of the week, those 2 inches, those 3 inches could be a foot. And at the end of the month, those feet can be a mile. So at the end of the month, when I was just moving a couple of inches in a couple of days, it didn't feel like I was going anywhere. But then when I look back at the end of the month, I've gone a mile. And a mile is pretty good distance to go. So think about your progress like that. Think about the things that you did to move forward, and be grateful for that. And be grateful for the growth. And this is my favorite thing that I always look into. I look into the growth of my business. Did I uncover some new strength that I didn't know that I had? What skill did I do that I improved upon? What mindset shift changed for me? Because the thing about this is, when we think about this way from growth, and this is why this is so important, and this is like a big thing for me. If you ever follow any of my emails, at least one time in one sentence, you will see the word grow. It's like a big thing to me, because I see it so powerful that we have to, in our small businesses, continue to look for ways to grow. Because we can't enter into the new year if you're dragging this resentment from, I'm forcing myself to do something over and over again and it's not working, but everybody's telling me I need to do this, so I'm just resenting. I resent having to record these videos. I resent having to show up to these meetings. I resent this, but I'm supposed to do it. This is not gratitude for growth. This is what I'm talking about. So when we think about our stuff, when we think about what's going on with our businesses, and we're moving into the new year, we don't want to be dragging these kinds of resentments, this kind of exhaustion and self-doubt and self-criticism behind us. Gratitude helps us clear that emotional clutter stuff, So spend some time in gratitude, even if it's only 10 minutes that you can do this. Spend one day, sitting in the silence and just being outside in nature, and just spend 10 minutes with a journal and just talk about what you're grateful for, and just let it all right out. No judgment, no, whatever. Don't show it to anybody. It's just for you. So think about it from that place. So then we take all this together, and we've done a reflection. We spent some time doing gratitude. The next part of my process is the actual review part itself. This is when I start looking at my numbers. This is when I look at all of my plans from the year. I look at what worked. And I don't mean just what worked for my content. I look at my offers. I looked at my client processes. I look at my messaging. I look at the platforms that I'm on. Where did I see traction? Where did I see things not working? Where was I not putting forth as much effort as I should have? All of those kinds of things is what I do in my review, because I take a look at what's working and also what's not working. And I do it with curiosity, not judgment and shame. Looking about what's draining me, what never gained momentum, what felt harder than it should have. All of these things combined, when we look at what worked and what didn't work, it's not just about the numbers. It has a lot to do with our energy. It has a lot to do with our capacity and our boundaries and where our goals are for our business. So when we do our reviews, we want to put all of those things into the pot as we're stirring this up to review it, but we look at everything. And when we look at what worked and what didn't work, we also look at what changed. This is huge. Your life may change. You may have had a baby. Maybe, or you're like me, now you're an empty nester and you don't have children anymore. Maybe you got married. Maybe you got divorced. Maybe you moved to another state. Your life may have changed. Your whole capacity could have changed because of family dynamics. Your priorities could have changed. Your customers could change. Maybe your customers have aged out. You're so used to talking to moms who have toddlers, and now these moms are in middle school. So your audience has changed, because if your product is still for toddlers and not for those kids in the middle school, you are no longer connected to this audience. So think of it like that. And if your industry is changing, your offer's changing, you need to look at what's changing, because you can't just sit there and, put your hands over your chest and cross them going, oh, I'm just going to do what I want to do, and this is what I think that I should be doing. If you don't change, you're going to be left behind. And everybody's going to be moving forward, and they're going to be moving forward without you. And most people plan their new year using this whole last year's energy and information and details. But your review is going to show you what's different right now and what needs to change and what needs to evolve. So the final step that I want to say is, once you've gone through all of these, and we've looked at our reflection, we've spent some time doing gratitude, we've done our review. And let me before I step onto that last step, let me talk about the review just one more minute. Don't think that the review has to be something that you do in one sitting. I usually spend a couple of days. I will, sit down with it for a couple of hours and then move away from it, and then sit down with it for a couple of hours and move away from it. I try not to do it all in one sitting, because what I end up doing is, when I do it in small chunks like that, like maybe I'll do the whole thing about my social platforms or my content or my offers. And then when I do my review and I look at my numbers and I look at my information, and then I walk away from it, it gives me time to kind of marinate in my numbers and to think about what happened, and to think about what had happened during the year, and how I can improve upon it. And it's very helpful when I take my review and break it down into smaller days like that. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. Okay, last part of it. The final step of the review is to spend some time recharging your creative spark. Because you cannot create, you cannot build, you cannot grow your best marketing plan from a place of depletion. So what we do in our community at the Marketing Strategy Collective is we do a whole creative exercise around choosing a power word. We do this every single year. It's a big thing that we do, and we talk about it in our end of the year meeting too. So we choose one word that captures our direction, your intention, your purpose, your energy, everything that you're thinking about moving into the next year. It's very clarifying, and it becomes like a theme that helps you guide your marketing all year long. If you've never done this before, you just need to go online and run a search for power words, and it'll come up with this whole bunch of power words, and you just take a look at it and just see what feels like it's very descriptive of the word of you moving forward into the new year. I've used words like build, transformation, alignment, invest, design. I've had words like that. Those are very strong words that I used for power words. So think of it like that. And what happens is once we have our power word, the planning kind of wraps around it in that way too, because the power word becomes this foundational piece to the whole idea of your marketing plan. And then what we do in the Marketing Strategy Collective, and I have done this myself personally, so if you actually ever get on a call with me, on a Zoom call, you can ask me to see these. They are scattered throughout my office, but I could always get them for you if you want to know. What we do with it is we get our power word, and we think about all the images and the colors that come to mind when you think about your power word. Now I want you to take all of those images and you translate it into creating your power word on a canvas. I'm not talking about a great big huge canvas. I'm talking about like a 3x9 size canvas, kind of a long, small rectangle size. And then I usually just buy a whole bunch of like those little bottles of acrylic paint. And they come in a whole bunch of different colors, and they're like 79 cents. They're like really cheap at Michael's. And then what I do is I paint my word on my canvas. And as I'm painting my canvas, I think about all the questions that I did in my review. I think about that one prompt that stayed with me. Maybe it had to do with my offers. Maybe it had to do with something going on with my industry. And then I focus my thoughts on that when I'm painting. And that's the questions that I use. And I just kind of use that moment of time as creative insight as I'm working and I'm painting and I'm thinking about my business. A lot of ideas end up coming to me during this whole process. And so it just becomes this whole connective moment that connects my business to my power word, to that creative thing. And it opens up my whole right side of my brain. And then I start getting, well, you could do this with this offer. You could do this with this offer. What if you did this? What if you did this? What if you did this? And it's an amazing moment. And so basically what's happening is it's creating this energy, and it's creating this energy into a direction that I'm moving in. So after you do this, you do this reflection and the gratitude and the review, and do something like a creative reset, like paint your power word. What happens is you're left with clarity. No, you're not going to have perfect plans. You most likely won't have like a whole bunch of rigid goals, but you are going to have clarity. And that clarity is what is going to let you enter into the new year. And it's going to give you confidence. It's going to give you direction. And it's going to keep you moving forward with momentum. So this review isn't about just saying, this year was what it was and trying to make it look prettier than it really was. It's about honoring what actually happened. So you can build your next chapter. So you can move into the new year based on these facts, based on this information that you have from your review. And moving in a direction that's intentional, and it has purpose, and it's aligned with your goals. And also this review gives you that moment to say, hey, look at you, business. You and I, we made it through this year again. And that alone is worth celebrating. So thank you so much for joining me today on this episode. If this started to give you some new ideas about your marketing, I would love it if you would hit that button below and then hit the share button and share it with another fellow business owner. And if you want to do more step-by-step processes like we've gone through today, this month in the Marketing Strategy Collective, we are talking about goal setting. We're talking about reviews. Your workbook this month will give you tools and prompts to help you with your marketing strategy. So the links are below, and you know what to do to learn more, to get the marketing help that you need to see that real growth in your business. Because you are magnificent, my friend. And let me be the first to say, I'm proud of you. Until next time.